If you're coaching a youth football Pop Warner age team, it's going to be harder to throw the football than it is to run the football. That's just fact. You may have an exceptional quarterback, but most of the time you're going to be better off keeping the ball on the ground. But if you do want to throw the ball, some, and you have receivers that can actually catch and that type of thing, our advice is to stay with gap protection, okay? And here's why we feel like that. Because if you're going to have 10-year-old, 11-year-old players, they're not going to be as adept to blocking people like they do in the NFL because they're going to line up differently and all that kind of thing. So you're better off to go ahead and give them a gap, meaning that you're going to gap to the right or gap to the left. And in this case right here, you can see the tackle has that gap. The guard has that gap. The center has that gap, on and on and on. Now, we see people sometimes trying to gap protect, and they're trying to do it with taking away the inside gap first. In other words, this side over here would be stepping down, and then the center would just be straight, and then everybody else is gapping down this way. Problem with that is you're going to get short corners and short edges if you do it like that, and eventually it's going to catch up with you. Now, we do agree that what you want to do is make sure that you protect inside out first. So our advice with protection is to gap to the left once again, or gap to the right. In this case, we're gapping to the right. Everybody on the snap of the ball is going to be fairly aggressive and step down and make sure that nothing comes through that A gap, nothing comes through that B gap, nothing comes through that C gap right here. And we've got it labeled as such right here. So another piece of advice is that your back will want to go away from where you're gap protecting. So I'm gap protecting to the right over here, all right? And so my back wants to go to the left. Once again, the reason is because if you're tight end, gaps down, there's a shorter edge, and now your back can take up for that. So just remember to send your back opposite. You'll notice that the routes are very short and completable. So you've got a one-step slant. If they cover the slant, then the three-step slant behind it will probably be open. And then you want to also just make sure that when you do protect and you do throw at the youth football level, 90% of the time you want it to be a three-step drop. In other words, if your quarterback is right-handed, all right, it wants to be right, left, right, all right, and then you want to throw that ball off of the third step and get the ball out, because once again, you don't want to have a sack. So if you're looking at throwing the ball a little bit with your youth football Pop Warner age players, we would highly recommend that you use gap protection, and we would recommend that you take your back away from it and get the ball out quickly and have shorter routes.